Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, attorney Kim Hegwood of Your Legacy Legal Care, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning and welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and our very special guest today is Dr. Paige Denny and Ryan Denny. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
And so I have a lot of clients that want to stay at home, and that's basically your business, stayathometexas.com. And we're going to talk about how to age in place with confidence because that's important. So Ryan, let's start with you. And you work closely with families who want their loved ones to age in place because people say, I want to stay home as long as possible, that kind of thing. So what are the most common concerns they share about safety at home?
I think when it comes to safety at home, right, it's being in the system. It's having maybe something traumatic happen and having to leave your home and navigate yourself through that system and then returning home and suddenly I can't use my shower safely and I don't know what resources are there. I don't know what it's going to look like as I move through the system, and I don't think about these things when I'm returning home. We really want to catch someone in the early phases of that, right? Before something catastrophic happens. But the biggest concern is just really knowing how to navigate the system and what resources are out there that I need to bring into my home in the first place.
So we talk to clients a lot about simple things. Are there rugs in the house? Because what we think about the fastest way to get out of your house and not come back are falls. So you're like, okay, rugs. Sorry about that. Are there any rugs on the floor? Things like that. Furniture, keep in the same place all the time, spacing, that kind of stuff. But all those things I think help, but then y'all do a little bit more, correct?
Absolutely. So there's kind of a simplified checklist that the layperson or a family member, a caregiver, even some of your skilled medical professionals will come in and do. And that checklist is going to catch some of those simple quick fixes that you're mentioning, like removing rugs or rearranging furniture, or even adding lights in dimly lit areas. But as we're telling our clients and educating them, there's so much more and beyond that. And that's where we cross over into the border of what I do, that layperson or that family member who might be an educator or who might be an engineer or who might run their small boutique clothing business doesn't have that clinical eye to say, because you move this way, because the condition you have, or because the aging process is taking place and you're using now an assistive devices in play, these other things matter. It might be a threshold on the floor that is high profile, we can bring to low profile. It might be that assistive device no longer fits through a certain doorway. It might be the quality and the type of carpet that is in your room or in the home that somebody says, I'm not going to be on hard floor. I want softness on my feet. But what type of carpet? Is it compact carpet? Is it shag carpet where it's going to trip your toes up? And those are just, again, still surface level things. I mean, it still even goes above and beyond into the depths of that. But that's where my clinical knowledge comes in and says, give me that opportunity to point out some things that maybe you just didn't think about. You did that checklist, and now I'm going to dive even deeper behind that.
So one of the things when I built my house I have now, I anticipated that my grandparents would be living with me, right? That might be a possibility. So this is downstairs room. It's got a shower, the whole 9 yards. What I didn't anticipate was I did make the doors wide enough. Couldn't get the wheelchair into the bathroom. So it's amazing what when I thought about all the things I needed, that didn't cross my mind. And so so it's interesting to listen to you because you look at it from a totally different perspective than a layperson would, like myself. So I find that fascinating. So let's go back to you, Dr. Denny. Why is a safe home environment so critical for older adults' health and independence?
The biggest reason that I look at why it's so critical is because it can eliminate the potential of that cascading domino effect of future problems. If we prepare the home, we identify areas that can cause risks, and we eliminate them, then we are not looking at the potential of a fall and an injury, an exit of the home and not being able to return, a hospitalization where they're coming home in a weakened state. Now they have not just mobility problems, but now they're having accessibility problems as well, which there is a difference between mobility and accessibility. Those are two different definitions where we work with those hand in hand. So it's critical to prepare the home and have it there, because if it's not, the potential of that domino effect turning into one problem leads into another, and then the caregiver burden can set in. And then it's almost like we're having to make a rush decision to get the house ready to come home from that initial hospital stay. So we fix it for now, but is it the best fix for we recover a little bit, but then we have another little setback, or maybe we recover now, but 5 years from now, when we've just made age-related changes, did that immediate fix our problem, and did it grow with us 5 years or 10 years from now? So fixing it the right way, the first way, can eliminate so many problems and really have people in the best place possible for aging in place, maintaining their safety, their functionality, and their independence for their complete future.
So the question that comes to my mind immediately is, when is the perfect time to bring you in?
So I can answer this actually.
question.
It is a good question. I look at aging in place in 3 phases, right? Like, you may have someone who is younger and has a mobility device, and they're growing and they're changing, and suddenly they have accessibility problems within their home, and we can help you solve that. You may be building your forever home in your 40s, and you want to think long term, like you mentioned, door width, right? Turning radius of your wheelchair. What backing are we going to put in the shower so one day you can put grab bars in there? So helping someone make those decisions early on. And then it may be, I'm in my 50s and I'm remodeling my shower. I want to think about when I enter that 65 plus portion of my life. I want to think ahead and get something done now, like Paige said, the right way. And if you are 65 plus, right, we want to enter the home in the mobility phase. When your mobility changes, that's when you want to bring us in, because mobility changes, accessibility changes, that leads to problems. So you want to bring us in as early as possible before something happens.
While you're still mobile, because when I can see you moving, I can project the mobility aspect of how it progresses over time. And I say that in a sense that it paints a picture. It doesn't mean if somebody's already in a wheelchair, I can't help them. But when you're asking when is the right time to come in, it's, hey, now I notice I'm starting to slow down a little bit. I'm starting to use a walker a little bit more. Now's the time to bring us in. Don't wait until you're already in that wheelchair, because I can look at you and see your mobility now, and we can move through all of these phases together and just enhance your safety and mobility even now when you're still standing and walking. And it just makes you even safer to have those things in place that are already going to be there when the time comes that you might be, or a loved one might be wheelchair bound or in the sitting position. So it just puts safeguards in place in an earlier time where you get to actually utilize those times. So why take the risk if 5 years from now, let's just say hypothetically, 5 years from now is when you need it, but we implement it 3 years early, you've just gotten 3 good years of use of a step-in or a zero entry shower where you have not taken 3 years of risk. So you've even decreased your risk even further during those 3 years of mobility years where you're doing fairly well. You didn't take the risk at all, but you've got an extra 3 years use out of using that zero entry roll-in shower. when you did it early in preparation for 5 years from now, when that incident would have taken place and you needed it at that time.
So we talked about, rugs and things like that. So what are some of the biggest risks seniors face in their homes, and how can families identify and address them before they become emergencies?
I think, of course, the checklist is the starting point for everybody at home. I think the other areas I say are kind of hidden in plain sight. Those are things where, again, this is where our definition of accessibility comes in, and the family members and the clients may not be recognizing them in their own mindset. That's going to be something like in the kitchen, maybe somebody has a shoulder limitation, and this is anybody. This could be somebody with a golf related, they're still young enough and active, or it could be an elderly person. Aging in place is for everybody, but let's go into the kitchen, and because of that limitation in their shoulder, now they are taking risks in reaching above head to get into their cabinetry space or their overhead closets in their bedroom. And now they're changing their mobility aspect because the accessibility in their home has changed. And what they're doing now is they're leaning to the side when they're going to reach for something, and they're offsetting their balance. And the next thing they know, they're going to fall because their mobility has changed, and now their accessibility changes, and now they've fallen into this cycle, and they're at a fall risk. So a lot of things where people think, I'm doing things the best I can, I'm still active, I'm still taking care of myself, I'm still doing my own laundry, but they're not doing it safely. That's where they're taking the highest risks. And it's, as I said, it's hidden in plain sight. From a structural standpoint, it's when they are not using the proper kind of equipment or the proper kind of adaptability in their home. They're walking on furniture. They're holding on to a swinging shower door when we could install something durable and sturdy that is safer for them. But they think, oh, I'm fine. I can step into that shower, no problem. I just hold on to the doorknob on the bathroom door when I get up from the toilet. But what they're doing is they are compensating. They are using that door. They're using that moving object as an assistive device. So it's hiding in plain sight, but they're really not doing it in the safest manner possible.
Okay, so we're talking about that aging in place often requires modifications. We're talking about, what does that shower look like, things like that. What practical changes from grab bars to lighting make the biggest differences in safety and in comfort?
In this area, if you gave me an endless budget, if you gave me all the bells and whistles in the world, there is a long laundry list of things we could change, we can modify, we can implement. So from a grandiose perspective, we could do anything and everything. We can put in what we call task lighting, where you're lighting up just everything you're doing. We can change the height of light switches on the walls. We can put in technology to where you're not reaching and touching things, you're talking to things. We can certainly structurally modify the home where the width of doorways and walkways is not an issue anymore. We can change the flooring where texturized flooring is giving you more stability and grip when you're moving around. But if we're talking realistically, where budget and practicality is a factor, the three things that I look at the most when you ask yourself, when your loved one is about to be discharged from the hospital and you're coming home, what are the three main things that somebody has to do? What do you have to do in your home? You've got to get in and out of the home. So we look at the entry and exit of the home. Is it safe and is it functional? Do we need to remove that swinging glass door, screen door? Do we need to put in a ramp? Do we need to have a grab bar to take that 1 or 2 steps? So entry and exit of the home is once. You got to get inside. Number 2 is the bathroom. You got to go to the bathroom. So can we access the toilet? Can you bathe yourself or do something, even if it's a sink bath or sponge bath? But that's a priority thing we got to do. So we look at the bathroom. Can you go to the bathroom? And how do we manage that? Are we sitting on a toilet from 1968 that's only 15 inches from the ground? Do we need to replace it with a more comfort height toilet? Where do we install grab bars based on your customized personal needs and your functional mobility? And then the third place is the kitchen. You got to eat, right? You got to feed yourself. You got to get to the kitchen. You got to, get in and out of the refrigerator, those kinds of things. So we're looking at that accessibility. Can you maneuver yourself around? Is it a cluttered space, open space? Is your microwave suspended over the stove where you can't reach it? Is it too high? Are we bringing things lower to a reachable, safe accessibility point? So those are the three practical areas of the home where I say that's where we need to start.
Well, that is good information, because I'm going to be in the next couple of years building my last home, and I'm hoping I remember all these things, thinking, okay, I have to do, because I think about what my bathroom looks like now, and go, while it's got a seat in the shower, things like that, those kind of good things. I'm thinking, the bathroom door you can't get into well, you can't maneuver, so now I'm thinking about all the things I got to go back and have the architect redo so that I can do this better.
And I think you made a really good point just now, thinking about these things, and you mentioned architect. And it's worth saying and noting to people that are going to be doing something like this. There's another buzzword that goes around, just like right now, aging in place is a buzzword, and we'll talk about that if we get to it. But universal design is another buzzword, and architects are using it, or you'll see it in these community cookie cutter communities that are popping up in development homes. But universal design is the basic bare minimum in these homes. So if you're building your home or looking for a home, universal design is going to have the wider walkways, the wider door frames. However, that is the bare minimum. When you're looking at your home, these contractors, they are just going in, and their job is to hang that door on the door hinges. And they are measuring based on the minimum standards of universal design. But beyond that, talk to your architect, make sure your architect understands. And if they don't quite understand what we are telling you about now, bring somebody like us in to say, you're telling us what universal design is, but universal design is still not customization to everybody and what their needs are, because they may still implement universal design, but when that door swings into the toilet, it may whack you there, and you may not be able to put a grab bar on both sides of the toilet, but that's universal design. So people get hung up on that, thinking, oh, universal design, that's going to solve my problems. But there is even one step further than that when you're doing your forever home.
So great information for sure. And so, but beyond physical safety, how does a well-designed home environment support emotional well-being and reduce stress for both seniors and the caregivers?
So this is kind of near and dear to me. I've learned a lot about, aging in place is a goal, right? And it takes a team, and it takes caregivers, and it takes home safety. You have to design, I think, from what I've learned in this process, like with the caretaker in mind. Not only could I maybe use my shower, but can my caretaker take care of me in the shower? A lot of our seniors are just left to the mercy of their homes, and they're lonely, and they're by themselves. And one of my biggest thing is there's help out there. And if you do want to age in place, it takes a team, right? It takes a team to take care of you, but also whenever that team is gone, is your environment safe for you to move around in when someone's not there to help you? And if someone is there to help you, can they safely transfer you or help you do the things that you need to do? And that a lot of that goes into this as well.
To piggyback off what he's saying, I think that when your home works for you and you're not working for your home, and it becomes seamless, it's stress-free. And when your caregiver can get side by side and hand in hand, and you know that you're safe utilizing these parts of your homes, or you're capable of utilizing your home, instead of saying, well, I guess I'll never be able to go to my sewing room again because it's got a step down, it's in a sunken living room, or I'll never be able to use the kitchen again because I can't get into the pantry. It's, 3 feet deep into the doorway. That changes your mentality, and it will affect your quality of life. So having the home prepared for functional use and aging in place gives you that peace of mind, and it gives you it gives you hope that you can still live. And when it changes your quality of life, that rolls into a whole nother thing of longevity. When you're happy, you can live longer. When you live longer, you can stay longer. If you get to stay in your home and do your hobbies, putting together puzzles. I've got somebody right now who loves puzzles. I've got somebody who has a stamp collection who he goes to his room and he just looks at his coins and his stamps. But I promise you that is the most important room in his home. He wants to access that home. If you can maintain your hobbies, if you're a couple and you can stay together, that is an emotional treasure trove of not having to say goodbye to your spouse because you are functionally capable, but your spouse is not. So they have to move off somewhere else. Being able to stay in a space that you recognize, it's your home of 50 years. It plays into your cognitive sharpness to say, this is home. I remember these faces. I remember these pictures. My family comes here. When you move into a different and new space, it can affect your cognitive status. And we want to build into that by having a home that's prepared for growth into that for as long as possible.
So guys, I know that all these families that are listening today, okay, they're going to need to find you. So how do they do that? So you can give them all the good information you're giving us.
So our website, stayathometexas.com, is a great place to start. We've built a ton of resources on there. In fact, we have a family resource section about the things you should look for, the things you could understand. And it is a starting point, right? Our home mobility planner to have the conversations with your loved one. And if you ever have questions, reach out. Our number is on the screen, and I always tell people a phone call is free. I will talk to you and we'll connect you with a resource, or we'll be the resource, whatever the case is. But those are the two best ways to get a hold of us.
Yeah, we're always here. As you said, if we're not the ones to help, we're the first to say this isn't in my wheelhouse. We want to help everybody. I can't guarantee that I can help you, but I can guarantee you that we'll do what we can to find you the help you need. So we want to make sure you're calling the right person and asking the right questions. And when it comes to these kinds of things, we want you to ask us first, because sometimes people may tell you, oh yeah, I can install those grab bars. Oh yeah, I can do that. But we want to make sure that they're getting done the right way, the first way, or that they're really checking off all of my boxes that come from the clinical aspect of things. So if we can do it, we will. If we can't do it, we will help you find those that can, because ultimately at the end of the day, our goal is to help people. And it's, as you said, it's near and dear to our heart, as my grandparents are 92 and 94 and still trekking along, and our parents are aging into this population. But as we're learning too, there's a younger generation population as well that are aging in place at an early age, or coming into circumstances in their personal lives, whether it's an unexpected event that now we need to prepare our homes, and we want to help everybody.
So perfect. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Well,
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful, and we really appreciate you having us.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcasts as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.